Welcome to Brain Secrets in the Age of the Brain. I enjoy sharing informational bits about the human brain that the science of brain function has uncovered. I love to call these bits brain secrets. When researching male-female differences, there are always exceptions. In general, studies have shown that males and females innately and reinforced by socialization, tend to speak two different languages. Female speech is a language of connection, used to establish rapport, express feelings, and create intimacy. Females prefer to process information aloud. They communicate to build and maintain relationships, as well as to generate and share creative ideas. Male speech is a language of independence, used to direct, instruct, exhibit skill, convey information, negotiate, and preserve autonomy. Males prefer to process information silently. They communicate to convey information, solve a problem, or get things done. Neither language is better than the other. They are different. Knowing this can help both genders understand the styles, be patient, and communicate more effectively. We can even learn to speak each other's language, becoming gender bilingual. Now it's time to join Asia Hudson, assistant producer of Brain Secrets, and videographer Grant Gilmore, and find out what questions they collected for this episode. Here we are again, Asia, and you are on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
And this is the first of the New York episodes since the Instagram overwhelmingly decided that you ought to go back to New York and do some more interviews there.
Yes, it was so exciting. I was like, please pick New York, and they did.
Well, the way to do that is just give them two options and pick New York and someplace nobody ever heard of. And so most people will obviously pick something that they know something about.
That's true.
So you can always skew the question to get a different answer.
Yeah. And everybody seems to know something about New York.
That's true. Absolutely. So, in this first episode, where were you in New York?
We were in the Lower East Side.
The Lower East Side.
Yeah, I guess it's like a part of Manhattan. And it seemed like it was pretty artsy. And it was a lot less tourist, which was nice. And everything was so easy to get to. Like, we stayed on the Lower East Side as well. We didn't just interview there. So it was really crazy being able to like walk to a CVS and walk to there was a Whole Foods. I imagine it is so hard to get to a Whole Foods in New York. Maybe not, but the last time we went, it was very far away from us because we were staying in Manhattan. It was so far. And so we were walking distance, it was like 5 minutes away. So it was just really nice. The people were great too.
That's fun. Mm-hmm. There's something, it's still New York, it's still bustle, it's still high energy.
Yeah.
But it's not like being down in the middle of Wall Street and so on.
Right, yeah.
And I used to love to go to the Village.
Mm-hmm.
Just really enjoyed that.
It's nice. And New York is really cool, but I think like being from Atlanta originally and then now having lived in LA, going to New York is a lot. For me, energy-wise, it's a little bit draining sometimes because there is so much going on. And like, I'm telling you, them people can honk. They can honk. There was a period of time when we were in our rented room and somebody was laying on their horn for 1 minute straight. I'm not exaggerating because I recorded the last 20 seconds of it and 40 seconds happened before I pulled out my phone. It was a minute straight at like 7 a.m. I was like, y'all gonna kill me, this is too much.
Well, and it's not gonna help. You know, literally the only time you should use your horn is to avoid a collision. Mm-hmm. Because if traffic is backed up and you're sitting on your horn,
how is that going to make them go faster? It's just going to make them mad
Yeah.
or frustrated or, feel like they're going deaf, depending where they are in relation to the horn.
I think it might be a culture thing, because in India they honk a lot, but it's more of an awareness honk. Like, I'm here. So maybe that's what it is in New York too. I think that guy was being crazy. A minute is too long. But yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at the first batch of videos.
Great.
And see what happens. Grant, where are you in the production of this first set of videos? Are you close to being ready?
Just wanted to add some dramatic pause there. We got everything ready to go.
I wondered what the dramatic pause was
I was
for.
like, is he broken?
Did you not hear the question?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I enjoy life, and I enjoy things like this that are somewhat spontaneous, even though I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, did he hear me?
Yeah, Grant's always keeping us on our toes.
I know. All right, let's watch the video.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Taylor, where we take to the streets and ask random people questions about brain function, and then we send those questions back to our world-renowned brain function specialist, Dr. Arlene Taylor, PhD. We asked the people who follow us on Instagram where they would want to see us, and they said they wanted to see us in New York again. So that's where we're here in New York. Different vibe, because now we're on the Lower East Side. We're going to go ahead and start asking the people questions, and today is the 2 days before Halloween. And the most New York thing to ever happen has just happened. This man behind us, where this crowd has gathered, can you see the crowd? Was just hit by a car. Guy's okay though, brain's intact, and that's what matters the most. The brain is intact, Dr. Taylor. That's what matters the most. Oh, I got a question. Dr. Taylor, how can blunt force trauma to the brain impact the brain long term? What kind of functions can be stifled if you have a brain impact, a brain injury, and things like that? That's my first question. And here we go.
Blunt force trauma refers to the impact the brain experiences when hitting a blunt object or being struck by a blunt object that doesn't penetrate the skull. A type of traumatic brain injury, or TBI, blunt force trauma can produce a concussion, contusions, or both. A concussion results from the head and brain being shaken. A contusion is a direct injury to the brain itself. Sometimes the injury occurs on the side of the brain opposite the impact, as brain tissue slams against the skull. Accidents are the most common cause, especially accidents when the head hits the windshield or side of a vehicle, or in sports such as skiing, skateboarding, football, soccer, boxing. Workplace accidents when objects fall on the head or slips and falls. At home, tripping over objects or tumbling from ladders are sources. Blunt force trauma may result in chronic headaches, dizziness, disorientation, sensory disabilities like tinnitus, changes or loss of vision, sensitivity to light and sound, deafness, alteration in taste or smell, speech and language problems, issues with memory, personality changes, mood disorders, coma, or death. The speed at which initial treatment begins can impact the potential degree of recovery.
typically we go about this by making eye contact with people. People think that we're covering this, but we are actually already here first. So the question is, if you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, what would you ask her?
How do I stop from wanting to eat?
How do we...
Wake up, go to bed, wake up. All I think about is food. Food. Food, not sex, not drugs, food.
I feel like that's a good alternative to drugs, food.
Right? Yeah. So how do I get that out of my system?
Awesome question. Dr. Taylor, how do we stop thinking about food or mitigate us thinking about food?
Well, if you stopped eating altogether, you know where that would put you. What you're really describing could be linked with several things. For example, an outright addiction to food, because eating usually helps a person feel better. Lack of sleep or other conditions that create stress, which trigger the release of adrenaline and cortisol that push for food to provide energy. Confusion between hunger and thirst, and a tendency to eat for both. Sometimes a malfunction in the hypothalamus that regulates hunger and thirst. A binge eating disorder, or BED, one of the newest eating disorders included in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, Edition 5. Binge eating is described as eating within any 2-hour period of time an amount of food that is definitely larger than what most people would eat in a similar period of time under similar circumstances. Along with a sense of lack of control over eating during the episode, so that you cannot stop eating or control how much you are eating. Or it might be something else. Since humans must eat to live, overcoming an eating disorder requires professional help. You might begin by calling an eating disorder hotline. Text NEDA to 741-741 or NAMI to 741-741. Remember, sooner is better than later in getting help.
Hey y'all, can I ask you a quick question? Yes. Okay. So the first question is, who are you? What's your costume?
Oh, Dumbledore.
If you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, anything about how the brain works, what would you ask her?
I don't know. I studied memory, so that's interesting. This is a really complex question to ask somebody straight off the street. I'd ask more hemispheric questions about like what the right and the left do and what like maybe separating them would do.
Good question. Both hemispheres appear similar to the naked eye, but microscopically, in terms of cellular functions and processing, they are markedly asymmetrical with a great deal of lateralization and specialization. Typically, the left hemisphere is concerned with processing events across time. It enjoys being in control. It contains Broca's area, which is involved in the production of language and the generation of audible speech, along with Wernicke's area, involved in the comprehension of both written and heard language. The right hemisphere is specialized for working with images and pictures over words, and understanding symbols and metaphors. Music is primarily appreciated in the right hemisphere. If the left hemisphere is damaged or sedated prior to selected surgical procedures, the person can sing but not speak, and vice versa. Studies at the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands suggest that when the hemispheres are separated, you still have one person. However, there are now 2 streams of visual input that the person cannot integrate. If an entire hemisphere must be removed early in life, the remaining hemisphere gradually is able to pick up many of the functions of the other hemisphere. showing the amazing plasticity of the human brain. Later in life, there would be likely less plasticity and ability to adapt.
Come on, Squid Games. Come on. Okay. So
Love the color.
the question is, let's see if we can get our Squid Games guy to talk. If you could ask a brain function specialist a question about the brain, anything that comes to mind, what would you ask her? So you're not breaking character. If you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, any questions that you have about how your brain works.
Yeah, addictions. Yeah. How can I get rid of nicotine? Yeah, addiction.
What impact does nicotine have on the brain, and how do you break your addiction to nicotine? That's a great question. What impact does nicotine have on the brain, and how do you break your addiction to nicotine? That's a great question.
Or how do you rewire your brain into making good choices? Like you fall into a pattern and then you're like, you have to break it.
Yes.
But is it like you have to rewire it, or like how does it work?
How can I break my nicotine addiction? So many people have asked that question over the years. Addiction, well, first, nicotine is a common and strong addictive behavior. Mark Twain reportedly once quipped that quitting smoking's easy. Quote, I should know, I've done it 1,000 times, end quote. Nicotine is carried into the lungs through the air, replacing some of the space that would have carried oxygen. Within 7 to 10 seconds, it activates the brain's reward center, where it activates neurotransmitters that impact pleasure, lowering anxiety, suppressing appetite, and a temporary increased focus. Willpower was not, read my lips, willpower was not designed to stop an undesirable behavior, so it's not much help in breaking a nicotine addiction. Willpower was designed to help you create and maintain a new replacement behavior. Select a healthier behavior to do when a craving hits. Willpower can help you follow through with the healthier behavior. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that more than 3 out of 5 adults who have ever smoked cigarettes have quit. Although quitting can be challenging, it can be done. Getting help and support to do this is important, however, as those who attempt to quit on their own have a success rate of only about 5 to 7%. Several stop smoking programs report much higher success rates. How do you rewire your brain to make good choices? It begins with a mindset or attitude. A growth mindset says you can develop new habits that result in good choices. A fixed mindset says, it's hopeless. If your habit patterns are resulting in poor choices, you can choose a new, healthier replacement behavior. Research by Doc Childer and Howard Martin at HeartMath found that your habitual attitudes form neural circuits in the brain. If you choose to maintain a specific attitude, the brain can literally rewire itself to facilitate that attitude. So decide what would be a better choice and start doing that new behavior consistently. Repetition creates the new neuronal highway. Willpower does not help you stop a bad behavior or habit. It does help you create a new replacement behavior and build a new neuron highway. Remember, it takes about 12 weeks to choose a new behavior and build its requisite neuronal highway. And then gradually, with repetition, the new highway or wiring becomes stronger and stronger, and the old, no longer used highway becomes weaker and weaker. However, a shadow of the old neuronal highways remains and can quickly reactivate in a nanosecond if you choose to go back and repeat the old behavior. This is what makes it a challenge to recover from addictive behaviors.
Hi! Serious. I like it. Serious for Halloween. Okay. If you could ask a brain function specialist a question about brain function, what would you ask her?
What makes a man not, how do you say it? A man not as nurturing as women? Like, what's the difference?
Do men's brains work differently than women's brains, and what makes them less nurturing than women?
Research on nurturing seems to default to empathy, which may be the precursor to nurturing. In autism spectrum or psychopathy, reduced levels of empathy are seen in more males than females. Scientists at the University of Cambridge reviewed the DNA of 46,861 males and females. About 10% of differences in empathy are determined by genes. However, they found nothing in male DNA to suggest that they are less caring than females. They concluded that women are not genetically wired to be more empathetic than men, but they may exhibit it differently because of socialization and upbringing. When males are primary caregivers, they nurture much, as do female primary caregivers. From childhood onward, however, males seem to have more control over expressing empathy. They exhibit a more targeted empathy, especially toward females and toward others who they perceive as deserving of help. Although adult males express less empathy, their higher discrimination in providing helping behavior may actually outperform that of females. Females exhibit a more indiscriminate empathy and are more likely to express nurturing verbally, where males are prone to silently do a task they perceive as helpful. Interestingly, the more a culture exhibits gender equality, the less male-female differences in empathy are identified.
This guy is kind of skeptic, so how does skepticism work? What makes somebody shy? What makes somebody shy?
Shyness and skepticism are not the same thing. A skeptic is an individual who is inclined to question or doubt generally accepted opinions. They may not be shy at all. If they have had a series of unfortunate encounters with other individuals, they may be skeptical of ever being able to connect fully with another person. They may even stop trying to make new friends, not because they're shy, because they're skeptical of success. Shyness can be described as a sense of discomfort or awkwardness around others, or worrying about what others think of them if they become the center of attention. An individual who is introverted may come across as shy when they are simply more internally focused than ambiverts or extroverts. Depending on the environment, almost any individual could be prudently reticent about immediately engaging with new people, which could look like shyness. Individuals who never learned to trust, or who repeatedly had their trust broken, or who have experienced trauma or any kind of really awful situations, may be nervous about engaging with new people and want to take their time, which again could look like shyness.
Okay, Dr. Taylor, so we're getting so many questions out here that I'm feeling like this one segment is going to be broken up into two. So don't be surprised when you see that I'm in the same outfit, same pants, perhaps the same jacket. So let's go ahead and get it popping. Let's see what else we can get.
As usual, I did enjoy that.
Of course, of course.
And there were some interesting things going on in that video that have never been in any of the others we've done. So I'm sort of guessing that your favorite question might involve some of the flashing lights.
Yes, absolutely. That entire situation was wild. So my favorite question was, what happens to the brain when it endures blunt force trauma? Because I kid you not, Grant and I went out and we set up our shot, we framed it, and we were like, this is good traffic. Because the way that we have to do it, we have to like assess the environment to see what foot traffic is like. So we position ourselves in the right place for people to come by, and then we just like loop them in, you know? And when we were there, we had just turned around, I was about to do my intro, and all of a sudden we hear like this loud like crunch, pop, and like screeching tires. People were like, oh! And we turn around and some guy had hit a bicyclist. And so we were like, that is such a New York thing, I feel like. I don't know, maybe that's insensitive to say about New York. But like, I would imagine that in New York, people are getting hit by cars a lot because there's like a level of aggressive driving out there where everybody always has someplace to go, and the bikers are just kind of doing their own thing, and the motorists are doing their own thing.
Everybody's in a hurry.
Everybody's in a hurry. And yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, whoa, I hope that guy is okay, because...
Well, my first question is, did he have a helmet on?
Yes, he was smart. He had a helmet on.
Because that can save you some blunt trauma, I'll tell you. You know, the years that I worked in intensive care were probably the saddest years of my life.
Wow.
Because intensive care is where everybody comes when you get blunt trauma. And so I took care of people who fell off the roof and hit their head, and it broke their neck, and you just tried to keep them comfortable until they died because there's nothing you could do. And yes, accidents like people running into bicycles and so on. Probably one of the saddest ones was a guy who was riding a motorcycle, and his mother said, put your helmet on. Well, he thought she didn't really know what she was talking about, and he put the helmet on, but he didn't
clip it.
He didn't clip it.
Aye.
And he whirls into this gas station, hit a spot of oil, crashed, helmet went off, and he hit his head on the raised part of cement around the, the pump. When he came in, literally, he had brain tissue oozing out of his ear. And I think he would have probably got a concussion and some contusions if he had had his helmet on right, but I don't think he would have died.
Oh, that's
And
sad.
it's very, very sad. I worked, in intensive care for quite a while, and then I needed to do something else because so many of the people came in with preventable accidents. If they had been making different choices, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So that's why we saw flashing lights throughout pretty much all of this first segment.
Yeah, and it was funny that wasn't funny, but it was funny breaking the episode up, and then there's really not as much context to the second part as to what's going on. So I'm glad that we were able to address it because they were there for a really long time. And luckily the guy was okay. He was able to sit upright, he was speaking, and I'm happy that he's fine.
Yeah, it's all you can say is, thank heavens. Yeah, so during the second episode, when we have some questions there, people will realize that, it's the same accident, it's not a different accident.
Right.
So, that was fun.
I had an amazing time as always.
So we've got 3 more segments coming, and I'm looking forward to those. And this time, of course, I wasn't trying to guess where you were.
Right.
Because of the Instagram, what do you call it?
Poll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work. The Instagram poll that sent you back to New York.
Yes.
We've got lots of places that I still want you to go.
Amazing. And we're willing to go.
Oh, I know you're willing to go, and you do such a good job, because that's not the part of the job that I could do. I love doing my part of the job, but we'll see where we go next.
Yeah, I'm
All
excited.
right. Until next time, be safe, avoid blunt brain trauma if you possibly can.
I will.
We need you.
And thank you, our viewers, for watching. Until the next episode of Brain Secrets Ask Dr. Taylor, here are a couple of tips. Females, give males the bottom line up front and save the long stories for your female friends. Males, ask females for the bottom line up front and be patient when she needs to talk things through aloud. You can learn to become gender bilingual. That's a brain secret.